From the center of the galaxy, this is ForceCenter, a show about Star Wars pop culture and the ultimate adventure recovering from life. I'm Ken Napzok.
And I'm Jen Landa.
And I'm Joseph Scrimshaw.
And we're here to talk Star Wars news. Breaking news from a long time ago, which in this case, it's exactly a week. The ForceCenter curse, which our fans are actually hopeful for. They love it. When Lucasfilm releases news, the moment after Jen and I sign out of StreamYard, said goodbye, see you next week, Star Wars news happened. But we're going to talk about that today. Some castings, looking ahead, and it's going to be what we do. And hey, as always, today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, your Android, your Kindle, or maybe your MP3 player. That's right, your boombox, kids. We also like to recommend a book for you to try out. And today we're recommending Heir to the Empire by Timothy Zahn. Joseph, you suggested this one, and I love it. What's the thought process?
No, I did.
Oh, did Jen? Yeah, that's right, Jen.
Jennifer was the chaos agent.
I know.
But Joseph seconded, and the motion passed in Force Congress. Jen, what's your thoughts?
I feel like there's going to be some relevant material that might be cherry picked, and it might be a good reference for us to reread it because it's been a long time. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, I have not read it since the books came out.
Exactly.
1,000,000 years ago, and I would like to reread them. I would also like to read any of the 800 books that are going to fall on me by my bed and crush me. So listen maybe to Heir to the Empire, like you should, on Audible.
On Audible. I'll get that free audiobook download. Help the show the process by going to audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. Again, that's Audible Trial. Trial.com/ForceCenter for your free audio book. That's our Audible A. Joseph's getting his broadcasting sea legs back, but what's our ask, sir?
Well, our ask, my ask is going to be of myself to speak more quickly. Can you put out a great little snippet of our last show? And we got done recording our last show, and it was like, great, our Skeleton Crew review. It's like, great, I'm back, I'm having fun. We took this little Jod poll where we talked about him using the Force, and it's all three of our opinions. And I've listened to myself and felt like I was a record being played at the wrong speed. I finished recording and thought, this is great, I'm back. And then I was like, yes, I think perhaps God does have the Force. So I'm going to try to speak. More energy, more enthusiasm, move forward. That's my ask myself. So, hey, everybody, today we're asking you to help us reach the goal of 420 patrons on Patreon. How many? 420 patrons on Patreon. We have 415. That has happened. Thank you. We are going to do a private stream in the year 2025. We're also asking you to follow us on Blue Sky and Threads. Bam. Asked. Done.
Boom. We'll get some sports graphics. Boom. Or what's those people, that family on TikTok? A boom. A boom. There you go. We got it.
Thrilled
we're
to
hip,
say
kids.
I know nothing about that.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, you both don't? Oh.
No.
Yeah, but I think you need to.
Oh, no, I don't want
I think
to.
you need to. So it sometimes helps to lose hope so you can build it back up again.
That's why I've been watching Outlast. Have you guys seen that show on Netflix about
How many
people living-
booms does it get? Boom.
Yeah.
Boom.
Well,
No?
maybe
Okay.
a lot of booms. You have to create your own fire in Alaska. It's rough, but it makes me feel better.
Okay. Welcome.
Hey.
I love that. Look, the internet is so, algorithmically divided. You never know, so I like that, Joseph, you were shooting a film and you completely missed the Boom family on The Tonight Show and that whole situation.
What?
I feel blessed on many levels.
Oh, jeez.
And I got nothing against them. They're chasing the dream. They've found something that has given them a lot of views, and it's a family, so there's some young kids who might have no choice. So I'm not attacking them. I'm just sometimes it's the whole situation. Anyways, here we go. I was testing some ability to edit some clips faster and get those up. We all, number one, we all did great, Joseph, too. But what you're feeling is we've just had 10 years of good old-fashioned broadcasting conversations that doesn't always translate to the clip world. So I had to edit all of us down. So it's not you. It's a team thing.
Yeah.
Final thing before we dive into the news, promoting some stuff here on the YouTube side. Subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Of course, hit that notification bell. Thanks to those who popped into the vertical live. Boom! We got to get some graphics. We're working on things. End of the year live stream. We are going to do a December 27th, 2 p.m. Pacific, end of the year live stream as we share our hopes for 2025 in Star Wars. Not the world, because that might not have hope, but Star Wars we have hope. So look for that there. And we will update you all here right now on, we kind of think we know how we're going to cover Skeleton Crew during the week of Christmas and New Year's. Stay tuned for that. It's definitely not going to be on Christmas Day and New Year's Day. That, Jen, we can guarantee is not happening.
It is not happening. If they want to pay us a lot of money, sure, I will be available. I already worked many years at Disneyland on Christmas Day, New Year's Day. Not doing it anymore.
Not doing it.
Not working Goofy's Kitchen again.
Goofy's Kitchen on Christmas.
I did it on New Year's Day, 6 a.m.
Man. Okay.
You got a one-person show in you about that, Jennifer. It's called Not Working Goofy's Kitchen Anymore.
I'm not working Goofy's Kitchen anymore.
We're in. You got a great director right here on your screen to your right, left, your stage left, your stage right. Joseph will know which direction. He's a great director. He'll get you through it. I'll write some songs with you. Can we do some sing and dance?
Beautiful.
Love it.
There you
Beautiful.
go.
All right. Heard it here first.
Life Adventures. We'll check in on that. Actually, I want to say, that is part of the Life Adventure is Joseph and I will be on the same stage again. I've got a wonderful big show. January 10th, if you're local, 7:30 p.m. Yoo-Hoo Room, headlining. And very honored to have a great lineup of comics on the show. Clint Winston Marshall, Karen Haber, who's like a Comedy Store regular from the 80s who left for 20 years, and she's back. I predict Joseph's going to you're going to love her stuff. And Elisa Phillips, Lisa Gottman, one of my first friends in comedy, and Winston Marshall. It's going to be great to do that again. And if you were in London and supported us, if you were at Joseph's birthday show, come make it a trifecta. Fly over from London for a Flappers show January 10th. I felt so bad, Joseph, too. But I was like, the whole time you were gone, I'm like, I am not bothering Joseph. Joseph's going to shoot a film. But then Flappers was like, you want to do a show on the 10th? Give us your comics. I was like, I must confirm.
That was great. It was great. Thrilled. It was a nice thing to look forward to in the midst of filming.
Mm-hmm. So that's all for me. Oh, I did want to say, I started watching Kenobi yesterday, the series. We were talking on my Anytime show with Alden that Obi-Wan Kenobi is a great holiday show because it is about one man trying to get a gift to Luke, right? It's a Christmas story. I watched episode 1 yesterday. I know I love the series. That's not a surprise. I've watched it a few times, but I don't know. That first episode just hit me again in a wonderful. I just love what they pulled off with that show. I'm blessed to spend time with you and as Obi-Wan. I know that's close to your heart, Joseph, too, but also Little Leia and everything about it. I love this series, but so I started my rewatch for the holiday week.
Oh yeah. Sarah and I rewatched it just a couple of months ago, and we were discussing what to watch. We're not going back home to Minneapolis this year, so we're discussing what to watch for our own Christmas Eve, and I might try to put across Kenobi and see if she goes for it.
It's
put a little Santa hat on one of my Kenobi action figures. Yeah. We can do it. Yeah, I mean it is.
It's a Christmas shopping list. That was my kind of Star Wars Life Adventures. Jen, you have switched. You got Return of the Jedi background today. People are very excited that you kick your daughter out of her room and then you put up the Return of the Jedi. Like
the bed sheets, we're going to hope it stays up because otherwise you'll see her little desk set up. But yeah, no, I'm trying to think. Yesterday I went to the Alamo Draft House. I'd never been before. It's amazing downtown in downtown LA. We saw Wicked, nothing to do with Star Wars, but it was phenomenal. I loved it. And my kids watched the latest episode of Skeleton Crew. They really enjoyed it. And my husband watched it. I was so curious because he has not been into any of the Star Wars shows. I'm just gonna be honest. He has not. He loved it. He's like, who wrote this? Do all the shows look like this? The special effects look amazing. It's like, well, we want to get into that, you know.
Good news and some bad news.
Yeah,
That's been, I don't know, to you and your daily lives, but that's been my experience with some people I know who are like, had pulled off of Star Wars or just didn't get in the shows or are like casual fans from afar. They're all in on Skeleton Crew. It's unilaterally kind of just been the experience I've had.
It's amazing, and the pacing, and he's like, this really feels like a movie. This is just really great. Like, it played for, he got a lot of the jokes, the inside jokes. My kids didn't, but they still kind of laughed, you know, it like plays on that level. And they love it. It's so neat to be able to share it with my family. And I was making hot chocolate. I'm like, this is the dream I've been waiting for. I've been waiting for this. Thank you, Skeleton Crew.
That's great.
I have a Skeleton Crew follow-up question.
Yeah.
Do you think for your husband that any of the appeal is the accessibility? Like, obviously,
Yes.
for us all in, people are like, Vane, great. We see the connections and little references here and there and all that. But it feels a lot like Mandalorian Season 1, where there is no, I make the joke about canon ratings. This is rated G.
Yeah.
Where I think, Ahsoka is XXX in terms of canon knowledge that enriches the viewing, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, it's funny though, because he was like, who wrote this? Because it's a lot of Star Wars stuff that they're bringing. Like, he actually thought that it was very connected. And so I'm like, this is very low level canon. Like you're saying, very accessible. But he was feeling, not that it was over his head, but he's like, oh, I can see that this connects to bigger things, or there's a lot of callbacks that you might want to know. So it was interesting. I think that's success, is that you don't have to know anything about it, right?
Yeah.
But that was funny where he was, I was like, well, it's so and so and so and so. Means nothing, right?
But it means everything.
It means everything to us, yes.
Yeah.
That's great. Great news. Wonderful Star Wars adventures. Joseph, we save you for last because your adventures could be I slept for 36 hours or you're still going.
Yeah, I've had a few little Star Wars adventures amidst all of the wildness of making the film. I mean, the biggest Star Wars adventure was just like reflecting on all of the behind the scenes stories of various choices that Lucas made. The stress that he went through, the feeling like this is not turning out the way I want it. I think which is what all filmmakers feel when like one scene isn't working the way you want to, and then you fix a part of it the next day, and then you're like, hey, it's gold, it's great. But just like the stories of him inserting the Cantina band in after the fact, and having that be such a huge part of it. Anyway, so I just thought about Lucas in sort of the Star Wars lore a lot while making it. I bought my dad a record player for the part of the film that we shot at his house because I wanted the people who lived in the fictional version of his house to have a record player. And like one of the only things I did in the lead up to the film that was like, I feel like a normal human was, hey, I bought you a record player, Dad. Let's stop at this record store for like 15 minutes. And they had one of those old that I never had when I was a kid, the Story of Star Wars albums, the picture album with R2 and 3PO on one side. And then that photo that looks like Darth Vader was at the Sears Portrait Studio with just that, that white backdrop. And I listened to after we got done filming, I listened to a little bit of that, and it's just such great Star Wars before it became a whole thing. There's just an announcer voice going, "A ship is flying, the princess is being chased, but they have no chance against this massive," and don't even call it a Star Destroyer, like whatever it is. Anyway, that was great. That was a really great Star Wars adventure. Then the other one I had is I got together with an old friend, one of my oldest friends. First became friends with him in junior high. We used to get together all the time in Minneapolis to watch superhero movies. So we got together to watch a superhero movie, but we were just chatting. And he's like, "Hey, so you're watching all the Star Wars shows?" And I was like, "Yep, here we go, here we go." Love my friend, but here comes the airing of the grievances. Where I'm going to have to nod and go, "I understand your point, but and I agree with that one." However, and he just was like, "Everybody's too hard on it."
Love it.
Like we had next to no Star Wars when we were growing up, and he went through it and told me all the things he liked about every one, and it was just like a miracle. It was beautiful.
I love that feeling. We've all experienced it. It's just a great moment. You're like, the defenses go up, and then you're like, oh yeah,
great, yeah,
you're right.
He's like, what was wrong with Kenobi? It's like, Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Vader fighting. What was wrong with that? And it was like, nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Nothing but everything. All right. Wonderful life adventures. We're back into the swing of things, without a doubt here. So we are going to get into Star Wars news. Like I said, this is news from last week that, again, we've joked for years now. I don't even know when the first, Force Center news curse happened. We record on Mondays. I get that Monday might be a news day, but it just seems to have some sort of magic. It's like Alex and Molly take a vacation, big Star Wars news. We broadcast, finish the day on Monday. Some sort of news happens there. Joseph, do you have any explanation for that? I look to you for an answer.
It might just be like a news, there must be something in the algorithm that is a good news drop time at 3 p.m. 2 to 3 p.m. Pacific on Monday. It must be an algorithmically good time for news drops. I almost feel like the Saw Gerrera is going to, that obscure Clone Wars character Saw Gerrera is going to be in Rogue One. Might have been one of the first, but we just released our episode.
You're right. It was around that time.
Back in 2015.
Ooh, crazy days. But here's what we're doing. We're doing a casting rumor catch-up today. Kind of these two stories are what we're going to be diving into. Last week, the Mandalorian and Grogu cast grew, even though, again, production on the film has wrapped, but they're in post-production. And that's often when you do get these announcements on voices and everything and people that were on the shoot. But the rumors and confirmations of the cast came out last week. The big story last week is a rumor reported on and then kind of confirmed by Legacy Trades, but it's unconfirmed by Lucasfilm. I'll just say here right now, I believe it's a casting. I believe it's the news, but you got to be careful tracing where things come from, and we just want to. Lucasfilm has not officially said yes, this is happening. But anyways, my light just died, which is I got distracted. If you're watching on the video, because it's plugged in, so it shouldn't die. It has permanent power.
I don't like this metaphor.
We did have an earthquake this morning. All right. Who knows? Anyways, let's get back on track. Jeremy Allen White, he of The Bear, America's #1 leading comedy, as I said this weekend, is said to be voicing the role of Rotta the Huttlet, but really it's Rotta the Hutt. Jabba's long-lost son, famously first seen in the Clone Wars movie. Second part of the story we'll get to, but just saying it here now. Deadline also reported that Johnny Cohn will reprise his Mando Season 3 role of Imperial Warlord. Maybe we'll get a name. He was part of the Shadow Council scene in the show. He bragged about plundering hyperspace lanes in the meeting, but was getting too much attention. Paleon thought, you're getting too much attention. So that guy, we know at least Imperial Warlord, is in the movie. So general thoughts on these castings, we'll dive in. Jen, I want to start with you because you've said a few times off air, you thought this casting was a prank, a joke, not real. And maybe it is not real because it's not 100% confirmed, but Jeremy Allen White is Rotta. It's real.
This is what happens when the Bear wins for Best Comedy. Does not make any sense to me. I like Jeremy Allen White. I think he's a fantastic actor. I watched the first season of The Bear, and then nobody in my house wanted to watch it again. My mother-in-law was, this is too stressful. My husband was like, eh. So why? Why are they casting him? So I was doing the mental math. I'm like, how old is Rotta the Hutt? Rotta? I did a video on this.
Yeah, we have to. Yeah, I have to. I'll try to do the math while you're chatting up here because that was a good.
I think it was Rhoda.
It's 3 years. That's kind of the beginning of the Clone Wars where you meet him, right?
Yeah.
So the Clone Wars is 3 years, then 19 years till Return of the Jedi. So 3 plus 19 is a number. And then they've
22.
been cagey about Mandoverse, about exactly how long after Return of the Jedi it is, and how much time has passed in the Mandoverse since we first met Mando. So that's shifty. There are no hard and firm numbers. So for fun, let's say that's 7 years.
Okay.
Since the end of Return of the Jedi. So 3 plus 7 plus 19. 29.
Okay. 29-ish, yeah. That's a great math. That's a great, and in Hutt years, Jabba lives what? He's 200. He's been around a bit, right? We know. So it's kind of similar to Grogu, old but young.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So like not teenage years then, more young adult is what we're thinking.
Maybe.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I think so.
Yeah. But like why? I stunt casting can work, but I'm not saying that this is stunt casting, but it's just like I feel like what happens is a lot of times you have these big name actors that come and do these voiceover roles. Being a voice actor is a very very specific skill that not even the best actors, live action actors, can do. Right? It's like it's very different. It's a different type of performance. I'm going to believe he's going to be able to pull it off, but I don't know about this casting choice. And I don't know who I would choose. Somebody who's a little bit funnier, who's more like comedic bent, because if you could do comedy, you can do drama. And I know that Bear has a lot of funny moments and he can tap into that, but I just feel like it's going to be a little bit edgier than I would assume that the rest of the film was going to be. Right?
Yeah, go ahead, Ken.
You're asking some great questions. I was going to pull this apart. Joseph, where you go with this?
We're jumping ahead a little bit to some of the Rotta theories that we're going to discuss later. So I'll take a lighter touch. I think that they're going to do something surprising with the character. Okay. I think my guess is that the character is going to have lived some different life than we expect, rather than just be sort of Jabba 2.0. Like, why hire a known actor to have just, one of the breakout stars of the 2020s go like my wild theory is that Rotta is going to have been like basically like kind of the gangster's kid that was taken away and lived a safe, sheltered life, and that he's going to be speaking beautiful, elegant, basic, like he was sent away to Space Yale for safety, and that it's going to be a different take on a Hutt. That's my wild theory, and I totally agree with you about voice acting is a different skill set, but those days are done.
They're done.
Because, that war is lost because everybody just wants the most famous person to make everything safer. So those days are done.
Yeah, Corey Burton as Zero is a great example of a talented voice actor making bold choices with a character. So Jen, is it? I want to pull your thoughts apart here a little bit. Of it's not necessarily your problem isn't necessarily with Rotta. In fact, by the way, I'm not saying you have a problem. It's not Rotta the character. It is this Emmy-winning. I think did he win an Emmy? Seems like with the Bear.
I believe he did. Yeah,
Golden Globe, whatever. Shameless. He was in Shameless. I know. It is the name not syncing up with the role in your brain.
Yes, absolutely. Because in my mind, where I go with it is that Rotta, whatever, is going to be very like over it, lackadaisical, maybe like, Gen Z kind of vibe, like, right? So
I hope so.
Right? And I don't like that. I don't like that direction. I want something a little bit, not like zany, like Zero, obviously. We don't want Zero the Hutt. I love Zero the Hutt, but I think that'd be a bridge too far for the general audience. So who, I don't know, like Kieran Culkin could maybe bring like a manicness that might be kind of interesting, or just, I don't know. There's so many great actors who can do both. Look at the Super Mario Brothers movie. It's packed with fantastic actors from live action, as well as actors who can do voice acting. And not Chris Pratt. Don't put Chris Pratt as a Hutt.
Man,
that's the only request I have.
We're already winning.
We're already winning in that
Rotta
respect.
is not being played by the same Chris.
It's me, Rotta. No, Jen, I want to make sure you're feeling heard and seen here. I love your reaction is not unlike a lot of the reactions out there, which I understand. This is, as Joseph said, you're not wrong, Joseph. This is one of the breakout stars in the last few years, who has a lot of weight behind the name right now, and to especially casual pop culture fans who enjoy Star Wars, who are probably like, wait, Jabba the Hutt has a son? Not even getting into the Clone Wars movie conversation, which we'll get into, I'm sure. But so I know it's not syncing up yet in a lot of folks, but I'm just you're pro Hutt.
I'm pro Hutt. There's got to be Hutts. I will always push for Hutts in anything and everywhere. but I have such a high expectation for what I want my Hutt to be that
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he's going to be able to give me what I want. I walk back. I like Chris Pratt. He's great. He's great in the Mario Brothers movie, and that's why he keeps in Garfield. That's why he keeps working. He's booked and busy. But I don't know. Do you guys like this casting choice? Am I alone on this island?
I pitched to you, sir.
Here's my big picture reaction: is that I delight in this news because I want Rotta to return, and we'll talk more about that. It's also one of those things that it looks incredibly shocking on the surface, but after I stared at it for 3 seconds, I was like, this is actually, to me, the least surprising Star Wars news imaginable.
What?
Because what do we already know of Filoni and Favreau and the Mandoverse? They are on a years-long, no one left behind Clone Wars Rebels philosophy, right? They're going to bring back every untouched character, and if a character logically should be there, they're not going to let anything stop them. So if there's going along and writing a story and going, we feel like this story needs to more about the power vacuum from Jabba. What character exists who would do that? Rotta.
Mm-hmm.
We're bringing Rotta back. The bringing Rotta back, totally, completely logical. The mission of the television show Mandalorian has been from the beginning, like, what strange but cool but totally unassociated and surprising to be in Star Wars person can we possibly cast for this role? This is a Werner Herzog casting of, let's take one of the least known by the larger public and most kind of strange, absurd characters that Star Wars has produced, and let's combine him with shocking casting of the hottest, most respected young actor. It's like, this is the Werner Herzog meets, bringing back every Clone Wars. This is Werner Herzog meets Cobb Vanth of like, we're going to pick up every obscure character from everywhere that we want to, and we're going to cast people that make you go, what? They have been doing those two things since the beginning. So to me, that's all. This is just like the most shocking version of their obscure character meets surprise casting.
Yeah, and as far as and I agree with that, and I don't even know, and not what you're suggesting, Joseph, but it's not like they huddle in a corner and go like, what can we do? It just seems like a natural extension of what you're talking about. That Werner Herzog Cobb Vanth Venn diagram of what's outside the box, including some of the other main cast from the show of like, well, what if we get this person? They're a comic from the 90s, or they're a fighter. They're, let's toss them in there, see what they can do. But also, I don't. I'm not saying this is fact, but I was even joking on other broadcasts here of just like, you got John kind of going, hey, I'd like to deal with this thing, the power vacuum left by Jabba. Boba's on the throne. Let's explore that. And Dave or someone, but Dave going, oh, we got one. Like, here, let me open up my Star Wars collector thing. And we love that they play with their toys. It's not a shot at it. And pull out a Rotta, pull out a Cobb Vanth, and it kind of squishes together. Now, to you asked us a question, Jen, of do I like the casting? I understand the eyebrows being raised. Kind of what Joseph's saying. If like you've got this guy and this is what you're going to do, but I'm intrigued by what they're going to do. We'll talk about the theories or thoughts on just Rotta the character, but there's a story there, and I like what you're saying, Joseph. If it could be completely different, Jen, I like what you're saying that it could be a Gen Z Rotta who's doing a TikTok in the corner with holding a lav mic with some green screen behind him. This is Boba Fett. He knocked my dad's power structure up. I think it's bizarre. It doesn't work on the surface like Joseph said. Therefore, I think I'm intrigued by it even more. If that makes sense. I don't know if that's a cheap answer to you, Jen, but
no, makes sense. I'm sure I'm going to love it. I'm going to eat my words as I have many times. But
now, what if the Rotta enters the scene and it's Jeremy Allen White and he's like, hello? Will you be on board?
I kind of like it, actually. It's so weird. If he really goes weird with it, sure, why not? I don't know.
Yeah, I think it depends on, what the character is. And if it's like, this could be a scene. This could be...
Yes.
Yeah.
Rotta could be one of the, main adversaries, or this could be a, like, Mando needs permission to travel through this bit of Hutt-controlled space, and it's a 3-minute scene.
Yeah.
You know,
That's
it could be anything.
right.
The other thing that I wanted to mention briefly, because the only little bit I saw of people talking about this is the kind of an understandable complaint or desire for Star Wars to not be so interconnected and not bring back every little character, and why does Jabba the Hutt have to have a son? And I understand all those things, and I agree with some of them. And I do think sometimes Star Wars sings the most, like Mandalorian Season 1 or Skeleton Crew, when it can be as dense with lore as you want, as long as it really, really allows new people in with no baggage.
Mm-hmm.
But I also feel this is so exactly what Favreau and Filoni do, and what in general the Mandoverse has always done. Both Favreau and Filoni have spoken publicly multiple times that what they love about Star Wars is that it is interconnected. All of their work has been interconnected. So I think it's totally fine for people to want Star Wars that is not connected to other parts of Star Wars. But I think if you don't like that, just don't buy your ticket to this film, because that's what this is. I think if you don't want Star Wars interconnected, then this movie is not for you. And I feel like going to it, reading about it, watching it, and being upset that it's interconnected is like going to a Western and being mad that there's a horse in it. It just is what it is, and it's fine to not like it. And I even get the desire for less interconnected. But that was one of my big emotional reactions to this news, of people being grumbly about, why does Jabba the Hutt have to have a son? Why do we have to have this Clone Wars connection? It's like, that's what this is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I'm with you too on sometimes that word connected gets thrown around a lot in many different directions, either celebrated, either you need more of it, you need less of it. And sometimes it's like, I think I have one friend in particular who loves Skeleton Crew. It's like, I'm glad it has nothing to do with the Star Wars we know. And I was like, it has everything to do with the Star Wars you know. You're just not picking up on it right away, which, to your point, Jen, up top, is kind of one of the victories of the show right now. But Rotta is just such a wild choice, I think, to the general public too, which is makes it even seem more like, oh, I don't even know this character existed. Now, Gonk Droid, a Star Wars story. The jokes are real.
Yeah.
But before we get to Rotta the Hutt, Jen, closing thoughts. If not Jeremy Allen White, who or what type of actor would work for you?
Yeah, I guess it really comes down to the story. And is the Hutt, is he going to be kind and benevolent? Is he going to be duplicitous? Is he going to be over it? Like, what is the role going to be? And then that's how I would figure out which actor I would cast, because I have a long list. But it's one of those things where it's like, a lot of people fans have not watched the Clone Wars. A lot of normies have not watched the Clone Wars. So it might feel redundant if you're like really in the bubble, but it's like, a lot of people don't know. They're like, oh, isn't that slug-like character that was in that original Star Wars way back when? Like, they're not going to know. But I think that, if you're a creator, it's fun. It's like, well, who can fit this story? It's not about like, oh, we need to insert, like you're saying, Rotta the Hutt, because that's going to really draw the people. Like, what? No, come on. They're doing it for whatever is best for this film. I just don't really know much about this film to be able to say. Which is good.
It's a big mystery around it. Look, the Star Wars bubble is real. I had a friend of mine who goes, hey, my wife and I just sat down and watched Andor. A rewatch for him, first time for her. She's a general casual Star Wars fan. Series ends, that little end credits thing of the Death Star, right? They're building the Death Star. And my friend turns to his wife and says, isn't that kind of cool in a way? It's kind of that he was building the machine that's going to kill him. And there was a pause, and his wife goes, oh, that was the dude from Rogue One. Oh. Go episodes.
Wow.
I'm not casting aspersions. That's just kind of what it is sometimes. So Rotta could fall into that. We'll talk about the Warlord casting. It's a smaller thing. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But Joseph, you're right. We're tipping into the possibility, again, unconfirmed, the possibility of Rotta the Hutt being back, or Rhoda if it's a 1970s sitcom. What does that mean to you, Joseph? I've been talking a lot. I'll just say I've been talking a lot about, it's a power vacuum. It's the last sign of the Hutt dynasty. He should have thoughts and opinions. But you've already thrown a wrinkle in it too of like, what if he's away at Vassar? I don't know. What do you do with this?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of love it. Just the fact that he's there. The question of exactly who the character is going to be is fascinating. But I do like this sort of no one left behind Clone Wars philosophy. I'm entertained by the fact that Mandoverse in particular brought in a lot of the parts from kind of later Clone Wars that were like dark and edgy of like, oh, you don't know about the Darksaber? Watch this cool thing, right? Oh, you've never met Bo-Katan? Well, here's her first episode there where she meets Ahsoka, and she's a brutal, horrible murderer. And like, oh, you watch Solo and you don't know what about Maul? Here, check it out. He survived on fear and anger and robot legs. And like, this is kind of the first thing of like, oh, you haven't heard that? Watch this much derided theatrically released film where Jabba the Hutt's son is called Stinky. So it's going to be a test for some casual fans who are like, let me catch up with that. That kind of entertains me. Not only does Jabba have a son, it's codenamed Stinky, but I do feel like that there is a I really like this kind of continuation of, hey, just because some fans at some point responded negatively to something, that doesn't mean we're going to shy away from it. Like, I could easily see hey, yep, we can go back to the Clone Wars if we're talking about the Darksaber, if we're talking about Maul surviving death, But this early stuff that some people really didn't like because it was too silly or too childish, we can't touch that. So I really liked it. Like, no, it's canon, it's lore. Jabba had a son, and Jabba loved him, and the child exists, and we're gonna go back from him. We don't care that he was called Stinky, So I just kind of love that Stinky is back, and that there's no shame in Stinky.
That Punky Muffin is back.
Punky Muffin, yeah.
Someone's gonna call him that. You know that they're gonna call him that in the movie at some point. He's gonna really hate it.
Yeah. Maybe Grogu will do some sort of like force mind meld, and we'll hear Punky Muffin, Punky Muffin, Punky Muffin. But then there's the total question. That's just him being back, and then there's what we've already started talking about: of who is the character? Why is he in this film? Is it a small role? Is it a council of Hutts, and he's one of them, or is he the big bad of the film? Could be anything. But my wondering and having fun, wild theories about the character, I do feel like as prominent of an actor as Jerry M. Allen White does doing it, kind of makes me think he might actually speak Basic, which makes me feel like, well, what happened to this character? Why was he not involved, in any of the events that we know about through the Clone Wars, through the Galactic Civil War? And that it does make me feel like he got sent to space Vassar. And he comes back speaking English, and also, this is my final thing, and then I will stop talking. Is the three of us have talked about, I feel like one of the big overall ideas of the entire Mandoverse has been, this is an era where change and evolution is possible. Who wants it, and who is trying to prevent it? So I can really see Rotta being a symbol of change. The twins we met in Book of Boba Fett are Hutts, where no change is possible, and resist the change that Boba Fett is trying to put across. So that's one of my biggest theories, is that Rotta could be a sort of symbol of change, of like, the Hutts should still have power. We should still be a force in the galaxy, but maybe we can do it differently.
Yeah, there's this landscape, wide open landscape in the New Republic era, right? To kind of, as the New Republic's struggling to redefine and change things. Yeah, I like what you're talking about, that there's real estate to grab in a way, and Rotta could be part of that. And again, you ship him up to, 2 hours north to Poughkeepsie, and you hold him up there, and we keep making the Vassar reference now, which is one of the timeless college references in comedy. You need a punchline. You go for Vassar. But Jen, bringing in here on just the Rotta of it all, the basic voice, and how Zero, how I think Jabba just couldn't be bothered. But you're more of a Jabba expert on that, so I'll lean in your Jabba basic knowledge. But yeah, thoughts on just the character in this timeline, in this age.
Yeah, I do have to wonder if they are like the big threat, if there's like a group of, I don't know, mercenaries that Rotta is a part of. is it just like a side quest that they get wrapped up in, and you know the Hutt is actually kind or something because he wants to do right instead of following his family's footsteps or what slug steps, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. So there's a lot of ways that it can go. I'm going to err on the side that the character is not that big of a storyline. That's what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know. I think it's a little too out there for people to really get into.
Jennifer, what is your preference between, if Rotta is a small role, are you more interested in a little bit of comic relief, or are you more interested in, hey, the character was kind of silly when he was an infant, but now he's a grown Hutt with a perspective, and we need a little bit more gravitas? Do you want comedy relief or gravitas from Rotta?
That's what I really struggle with, because I'm trying to remember Jeremy Allen White's voice, and he kind of has like a laid back. And it's been a long time since I've seen The Bear, but like
I haven't seen an episode, so you're factual 100% to me.
No, maybe I'm remembering him wrong. I don't know, but they're just like kind of like almost like a nasal thing happening. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. It's hard for me. I don't know what that character is. And I'm going to rely on the talent of Jeremy Allen White to bring whatever he's bringing, because I'm sure he's going to make a good choice. Or Dave Filoni has an idea of where he wants his character to go, obviously, right? So he'll take that note and he'll run with it.
Do you want them to run right at the Zero voice?
Oh, I love that. I love Zero the Hutt. God, I love that. Now that is a risk. And the majority of the audience is going to be like, no, but I will be cheering. I want that.
Yeah. And I look, for my money, I kind of agree with Jen that I as much as this could be a Rotta picture, I do think it's just a little cobblestone on the path along the way here. And this is, an outside the box casting, like you said. I mean, I remember Nick Nolte being casted over, like, what are we going to do? And Quill emerges as one of my favorite characters in modern era Star Wars. So I'm open to be surprised. I don't think it's Rotta's going to be front and center, but I like, to me, one of the things I like about this, and Jen, by the way, I'm not here to convince you of anything. If you don't, to be clear, I want to make sure I'm not trying to pull you onto any conversation side here that I'm on, but like, as a Book of Boba Fett fan, Boba Fett taking that throne, the twins being shut out of it and kind of having to step down, Bib Fortuna being just killed and tossed out of the chair. I don't know, to some of your points, Joseph, I don't know if we're going to pick up directly, but I'm excited about that possibility that Boba Fett, Fennec, that it's not even just a continuation of the story, but it's that universe we've been building up and been playing around in. I think Rotta would fit into that and fit in on the big screen. As a Book of Boba Fett fan, do you have any thoughts or hopes or possibilities that we could not get a backdoor second season in a movie, but that some of that stuff that's left out there could still be at play?
Like a whole standalone movie? No,
in this movie. This is part of the arena they're playing in.
Maybe. I'm sorry. I was thinking of you remember Seth Green? Seth Green's character in Austin Powers, and he was the son, right, of the Dr. Evil or whatever. That's kind of where I'm feeling that this character might go. And I'm sorry, well, you were talking, I had that thought, and I was like, that's a terrible direction. I really hope that they don't go that direction.
See, no, I do. I hope Jabba comes back to life, and then we get counseling scenes. No, Rotta, how does that make you feel when your dad says that? Yeah, he's trying to kill. He's trying to kill.
Credits. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Boy.
It does encourage my hopes for the possibility of Boba Fett or Fennec appearing, but it does make me also wonder about the path of news leaks that if Tamara Morrison and Ming-Na Wen were in this film, and all of the news hunters were like, whatever. Let's talk about Rotta the Hutt. I feel like if they were in this film, why has that information not made it to us? I really want them to be in it.
Yeah. I agree. There's we got, Sigourney Weaver and Rotta the Hutt are it. And this other one, and I'll toss in, we can talk a little bit about this, Johnny Cohn being Imperial Warlord, which, Jen, as you know, you get those sides and you're like, my character doesn't even have a name. They want me to read for the background, but it just means that the Imperial Shadow Council, Captain Pan and Paleon, and the Looming Return of Thrawn are kind of out there and involved with this. And you got a lot of Ahsoka season 2, and there's some people that think Skeleton Crew is just a vehicle to go get Ahsoka and Sabine from Peridia, which I don't subscribe to, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's some kind of reference or connection to that. And you mentioned up top, Jen, because it was your book suggestion. How are we feeling of the Heir to the Empire vibes in this early New Republic era? With this Shadow Council and this Imperial Warlord appearing in this film, that's a direct continuation of what was going on in season 3.
I like the idea. I really like the idea. And I'm not going to get into my issues with it because I don't want to rain on anyone's parade. And I promise I would keep my negative comments and talk about the weather instead. So I will, because I have some issues. I have some issues with the performance of Thrawn. The way, and I loved him. I loved him in animation. I don't know if it is working for me in live action. And I have my own headcanon of who I would love to see as Thrawn, because that to me would be the most exciting. If you have a really delicious villain at the center of this movie and you have all these inner workings, that to me is fascinating. But I would like to have like a Ralph Fiennes, a Christoph Waltz, a Hugo Weaving kind of at the center of it. But I know that would take the character in a slightly different direction. So now I'm making a whole different movie. But I really enjoyed Heir to the Empire when I read it many, many years ago. And it's weird, right? And I like that. So I think it could be interesting.
I like that.
That's all I'll say about that.
Get your Audible free trial and see what they're going to pick out of there. Joseph, your thoughts there? And this is again kind of connected to the rod of it all too, as well. But and your thoughts of this is what they pull out, or it's what the creators dish out, right? Like, hey, we're going to give you the Rada casting so that you're not picking up on. We got Jack Nicholson as another Hutt, like like we're not gonna let you know. But the Imperial Warlord.
This is the distracting hand in the magic trick.
Boom.
Watch this. Yes.
Well, and I think
do you not see that Anthony Hopkins is actually playing?
Exactly.
Who knows?
But a little bit. I thought season 2 there was a lot of leaks and rumors, and it was like all kind of a smokescreen in a way, whether intentional or not, to hide that Luke Skywalker was coming back, right? Like, I could see something. I don't think Rada's. I think Rada's in the film. If this is all true, I don't think it's they're making up a casting. But I'm just saying. Anyways, I digress. Shadow Council, Imperial Warlord, that kind of being at play, and the Heir to the Empire, hot chocolate and all. Joseph possibly factoring in.
Yeah. I did this actor Johnny Coyne. I don't know if that is the correct pronunciation. I see that this actor has been in a million things that I have not watched. The thing that he has been in is my beloved season 3 of Twin Peaks, where he plays a character known only as Polish Accountant. So he excels at characters without actual given names, but he is terrifying and phenomenal. It's a weird Twin Peaks thing where he pops up as a surprise thing and makes an incredibly surprising, violent choice, and he's phenomenal. So I feel like with all this sort of like it's the Shadow Council, it's Thrawn, it's it's Paleon, it's it's Brendel Hux, like all these. There's all these kind of shinies for us Star Wars fans. In that Shadow Council reveal, I honestly feel like he's a phenomenal enough actor that currently nameless Imperial Warlord could be the big bad, actually. And this is the news that's far more relevant to the plot. Because I don't think Thrawn is going to be the big bad of this film, because I think it sort of spoils his big badness for the eventual New Republic versus Thrawn
that's right.
Film. And kind of where we left off with, we can talk more about what the film will be, but where we left off with Mando and Grogu was Grogu needs life experiences to join the Mandalorian Academy and become a full I know that's not the actual term, but to become a full Mandalorian. And Din was like, I need to make money, but I only want honorable jobs. So, hey, can you just throw me all the bounties that have to do with fighting no good, lousy Imperials? So we're kind of left off with them to have a conflict with Imperial remnants. I don't want Moff Gideon to have survived or have come back or be a clone. So I think the film might be in business for a new Imperial remnant big bad. So maybe it's this guy. Who I would have delighted to have an action figure in the 80s just called Imperial Warlord with no name. Sorry, that's not a direct answer to your
no
Heir to the Empire, but more about that guy and what he might be. In terms of the Heir to the Empire, like I'm really enjoying what they've been doing. They've been pulling all of the things that I think that I enjoyed when I read of, The Last Gasp of the Empire. Thrawn is a different kind of villain. And so far, they have not been getting into the parts that I was challenged by when I read those books back in the day of Obi-Wan going, yeah, the Force is eternal, but I'm just not going to call you anymore. I can't. I didn't like that. I didn't like the Yasamil.
Oh, I liked that.
I like them as cute little evil pets, but the Force bubble, the bubble where Force doesn't exist, philosophically for me, that's not
right. Yeah,
I
don't like that.
Okay.
It generates from living beings, so a living being that's like no. It's I've always felt this way about Zahn. I think Timothy Zahn is a fantastic writer, and his take on Star Wars always tips a little bit more sci-fi and a little bit away from fantasy for my taste, which is a totally subjective thing, not a criticism of him as an author or anybody who loves his work. He just always tends a little sci-fi for me, and that concept tends a little sci-fi for me as opposed to more fantasy.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I am not the books. Those books have not held up for me over the years. But again, I haven't read them. I have the comic adaptions in my storage. That it might be an easier way for me just to flip through and get the visual reminder of everything going on. But it wasn't like I didn't love them and don't like a lot of things in them. And I love kind of, we keep saying, cherry picking, but finding things that work. And I've always liked that those books were the only flame to burn during a time where there was no other Star Wars fires going. And I think Dave has always had that in mind, and that's why we're seeing this stuff kind of factor in. And I think it does work in the way they're doing it. In a general sense, there's going to be things like Jen Thrawn in live action hasn't hit me yet either, but I love him in Rebels, and I was really on board with the use of him in Rebels. And I think Lars Mikkelsen is a great performer, but something. It's not even that it's bad. I know you're not saying it's bad, but it's just
no.
I'm waiting for the thing that pulls me into it completely.
That's it.
But one thing you got me thinking too, Joseph, not to go into just general predictions, and not to suggest that this is a Star Wars version of MCU. We hear that a lot. And then Filoni's film shall be the Avengers of the Star Wars world, where all the characters we've met come to meet up. There might be some truth to that in some sort of general sense. But that Thrawn almost kind of being as the big bad kind of hanging over, the Thanos popping up in the end credits. This isn't the film, but the next one is. In Ahsoka, he's made a splash. Ahsoka season 2 will be the next big move forward. The grand return will be then. That is kind of working for me as we lead up to Filoni's film. I like that idea.
Yeah. Thrawn saying, fine, I'll do it myself. Yes. Like that. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. The Mandalorian and Grogu is clearly building off previous seasons and past Star Wars stories, as we've been discussing. No surprise. I think John and Dave have been doing that for a bit. Even though Mando season 1, side conversation, Mando season 1 was, its wonderful, own thing in a lot of ways, but it was never going to be its own thing. It was in the Star Wars galaxy that we knew post Return of the Jedi. But I do personally want to find ways for this film to stand on its own outside of these other things that need to happen or we feel need to happen, whether the pull back with Rotta or the push ahead to Thrawn's return. But Jen, how do you want this film to stand on its own? Any thoughts on what it can do as its own film in 2026?
I do wonder because I forgot about the Thrawn New Republic film that is coming down the pipeline, because that's where I get excited. I'm like, ooh, I want to learn more about the cloning subplot that we had in The Mandalorian and the Bad Batch, right? Like all these connections, that would be kind of interesting. But I don't think that we're going to get that in The Mandalorian and Grogu. So I don't really know what to expect. I feel like it's going to be a bigger, more thrilling adventure than what we get in this series. And that's okay. I think that that's great. It's going to be a fun time in the movie theater. Star Wars will be back.
I think it's going to be a rip-roaring time. That's my put it on the back of the DVD box. It's a rip-roaring Star Wars time. Love that there. Joseph, your thoughts on this as well? this is going to be its own film. It has to be.
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of tone, I agree with you. I expect it to be like huge and cinematic and really serial adventure, kind of original trilogy pacing structure of from one problem to the next, while also still keeping us emotionally hooked. I think the first episode of season 2 of The Mandalorian with the Krayt Dragon is that was directed by Favreau, and I think that's a little bit of sort of Favreau Unchained. How emotionally it's solid, but how big can we make this? Creative, weird things like playing with the aspect ratio to make the Krayt Dragon feel even bigger. All that, I think, in terms of tone and experience. The biggest thing for me is, even though it'll have Rotta the Hutt and probably 8 other characters that all in fans will be excited to talk about, I do think it will be structured more like Mandalorian season 1, where this is about really crisp, clear, simple, emotional story of what's been set up to me, and I could be deeply wrong, is that this is a father trying to raise a son, and a son needs some life experiences in order to take their next step. And the biggest unresolved emotional thread for me is Grogu has to face his past. He has to face his dark times that he doesn't like thinking about in order to progress. And my hope is that the film has a really clear emotional conflict. If you've never seen Mandalorian, it's like, weird armor daddy loves strange magic baby, but magic baby has trauma and can't move on. How in this adventure does magic baby face their trauma? Who does dad need to become to help magic baby face trauma and move on? I want that to be the emotional hook, because all we talk about, who's going to be the big bad? Will Rotta have a perfect pan-Atlantic accent? Who knows? Who cares? All that stuff is dressing. What matters is what matters emotionally to Din and Grogu. What are they going through and why? That's how the film is going to succeed or not.
The casting news I am waiting for with bated breath is Ahmed Best's Caloran back, right? That's and I'm talking about in terms of just, that's a continuation, I know, but what you're talking about, Joseph, is I think what will set this film apart. It is a rip-roaring adventure. It is action. It is going to feel like a Sunday matinee showing, but this is The Mandalorian and Grogu, and that is the biggest kind of wide open landscape to explore with Grogu. What happened? And we got so close to it, and I feel that if we were going to season 4, that would have been part of it. I still contend within a hope 90% chance of being true and accurate that Keller and Beck has taken him to Jar Jar Binks. But that is just the plot. But I think that is what will set it apart.
I think that is not even remotely wild, given the whole Naboo ship. And the no characters left behind, no shame in Stinky, no shame in Jar Jar. Here's who these characters are. Here's what they mean, and I think I think Keller and Beck was violently taken from Grogu, and he fears the same loss of Din.
Yeah. But that's where I'm hoping it will set itself apart. Is we're in this New Republic era. We got the Ron, we got all this stuff. Yeah, but this is the story of Lone Wolf and Cub. And this is a chance to move it forward in a big way. And then if we're going to move them into other adventures, if we do have the Avengers of Star Wars meeting up in Filoni's film, then it'll be in a different spot. And Jen, come on, you're on board. I know Rotta and Grogu sitting around and having a snack might be the greatest scene in Star Wars history.
Yeah, like how do the Hutts age? Like, what size is he? Is he going to be like a miniature version of Jabba? Like, I just want to know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, who knows? Maybe Rotta and Grogu were both kidnapped at the same time and had some sad prison time together where they ate frogs.
They're in the foster care system in the galaxy. Is this going to be a deep dive into foster care systems? I love that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Boy.
I love that. Well, we'll know soon enough because it's almost 2025 and it'll almost be 2026. And don't look at calendars; it gets depressing.
Yeah.
And more news, I'm sure, will start coming out. And that's my final thought on this before we go to our final question is I do kind of like it. I don't like scoop culture. I don't like that. But also I think it's a game from these studios and the reporters and everything. But I love knowing that there's an entire cast list out there that we have no idea yet. That's kind of fun. It's kind of fun. But a fun one to finish. Jen, with Rada back, what other wild card or overlooked Star Wars character, no one left behind, who do you want to appear in this movie?
There's just so many. I mean, and they've been doing such a great job. Look at the teak. They brought the teak back. But when you say Jar Jar, there I can just picture that moment if Jar Jar were to come on screen and the audience in the theater would go nuts. It would really just be such a beautiful moment that now I really want it to happen. I have to have it happen. And I hope that if it is going to happen, that we don't get spoiled beforehand. That's all. I just want that moment in the theater, right?
Yeah.
It'd be really special.
Well, they got great coverage by being able to announce Ahmed Best in the film and as Kelleran back. And
As Kelleran back. Oh, yeah.
And then, surprise, he's got a conversation with himself.
Like D. Bradley Baker.
Yeah. I love that answer. I think that is a great answer. I'll just toss it really quick. He's got quite a journey in my own life as a Star Wars fan, but I think it's time for Meeber Gascon. I don't think Dave leaves him back too long because that is the creator's favorite Clone Wars episodes. And look, Steven Stanton, one of the most talented voice actors out there, and a staple in Star Wars. So I want Steven to voice Meeber Gascon. I don't want to take jobs away from any voiceover actor. But if they're going to do this thing that they do, how about Brian Cox as Meeber Gascon?
Oh my gosh! Yes,
It's a Meeber, not
wow.
So
That would be great.
that's my answer. Joseph, take us home with your wild card choice.
Look, I think really for Clone Wars, we've got a lot. We've got Bad Batch did a lot of heavy lifting. We got Gungi back. We found out what happened with the Zillo Beast. So I think we're down to Morley the Snake surviving.
Yes. Yes.
Or perhaps the one that fans are crying out for of Corky, because he is a Mandalorian. And he does have a mysterious lineage and the great soap opera fan theory that he is Kenobi and Satine's child that someone else in the family took credit for. So that Satine is his aunt.
Mm-hmm. I love that answer. I want this decided once and for all. That it is son of Kenobi, and that's it. But maybe it's Rada. Maybe this is the long lost children movie. Yeah.
This is the Young Avengers. It's just all the kids getting together.
The Rise of Corky. All right. Well, there you go. We've taken a deep dive into the news. Any final thoughts, Jen, as we close up this episode?
No, I'm going to eat my words on all of this, and I look forward to that. I'm going to be proven wrong.
You're good. You're not being negative. You're speaking your truth on Rada and the bear. I mean, I don't think there's a lot of words to eat.
I almost posted it on not Truth Social. What am I saying? Weird. You know me on Truth Social. I almost posted it on Blue Sky, and then I was like, people are going to get so mad, and I don't have time to argue with anyone right now. But I share it with all of you. My truth. This is not a good casting.
There you go. It's your truth.
I'm so curious. Watch, it's going to be 30 seconds, and he's going to go Jubabo, and like, great, good job, Jerry Alman White. Hi.
Yeah, he just happened to be walking through. He and John were going to shoot a sandwich show, and so like, hey, you want to be in Star Wars?
Sandwich show.
I can believe it. There you go, Joseph. Final thoughts from you, if you have any at all.
No, I'm excited to have Rada back, and I trust that the casting will be interesting. Either like a total sort of nothing burger because it's 30 seconds and he's speaking Huttese, and it's like, yeah, anybody could have done that, or they're really doing something different with the character, and it will all make sense. I'm excited for either one.
Yeah. Hey, it's just fun. Looking forward to the new Star Wars film. I cannot wait till Star Wars is back in theaters. Love it on my TV screen, but love to go experience theaters. And this just means we're one step closer and one step closer to finding out the truth of these roles. So exciting stuff today. And I hope the curse of ForceCenter continues and we do get that Brian Cox as Meeber Gascon casting today after we finish recording. Hey, you can find us, ForceCenter, on social media at ForceCenter Pod. We're having a lot of fun on Blue Sky. Join us there. Facebook page is ForceCenter Podcast. Instagram, YouTube. If you're watching here, subscribe, hit that notification bell. We're a podcast first and foremost and available in a lot of spots. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, just search, you'll find us. Merch available at tpublic.com/user/ForceCenter or down below in our Fourth Wall shop if you're watching on YouTube, link there. And you can support us directly at patreon.com/ForceCenter. So close to that goal of 420. We're getting there. And then we'll have our exclusive live stream in early 2025 for the 415 goal. Find me at Ken Napzok. Go to my website, kennapzok.com, to get information on that comedy show January 10th. Great line of comics, including a Joseph Scrimshaw. Where can they find you, sir?
Yeah, you can follow me on social media. I'm spending the most time on Blue Sky, so please do join me on Blue Sky. You can also visit my website, josephscrimshaw.com, to keep up with news on the various film projects I'm working on. In particular, if you want to help me finish this film, I only filmed it. I still have to do all of the post-production, which also continues to cost money, so I need to do more fundraising. It's getting toward the end of the year. If you're looking for a tax deduction, you can contribute to the film via a great organization called Film North, and it's entirely tax deductible. There's a big link right on my website, josephscrimshaw.com.
There you go. Check it out. But Jen, where can they find you? Your Return of the Jedi bedsheet curtain backdrop.
You can find me in all the social media sites except for that one. Mainly Blue Sky, Instagram, TikTok at Jennifer Landa 1138.
All right. That's it. So for Rotta and all the characters we love and don't want to leave behind. We'll see you next time here on ForceCenter.